Is the COVID-19 lockdown causing you sensory deprivation? That's what we're talking about on this episode of the Driving with Rob podcast. Deprivation may be one of the worst things that's being caused by the COVID-19 lockdown. Sensory deprivation. You can't be around people. You can't have physical human contact. And I think the people who maybe need the human contact the most are the people at highest risk. I did a podcast here a while back about people with leprosy and how 2,000 years ago, there really was no medical science. They didn't know anything about leprosy. They didn't know what caused it, if it was transmittable. And the idea that you couldn't touch somebody who had leprosy has still continued on into the year 2020. And what missionaries who go to these third world countries who still have leper colonies and leper villages, what these missionaries will tell you is the thing that these people need most is human touch. And I did a podcast on the importance of human touch, just to hold somebody's hand when they need comfort and when they need to reconnect with their own humanity. Well, one of the things that COVID-19 is doing to people is they can't touch anybody. You can't feel the touch of other people. When the worst cases of COVID-19 go into the hospital, go into intensive care, they're basically in isolation. And people need people, to quote Barbara Streisand. People who need people are the luckiest people in the world. But it's not just the human touch. There's a definite need in human beings to be around other people who are like you. I mean, there's a need to be around other people, but you can still feel isolated if you feel like you're the only one like you in that group. And I almost named this episode People Like Me. But when you type it out, the inflection is up to the reader and it sounds like people like me. No, people like me. And sometimes you ask yourself, are there any people like me? Many years ago, I worked for a German company and they sent me to Germany for 2 weeks. Well, my guide, my handler, whoever it was that the company assigned to take care of me was a guy named Johann. And Johann complimented me on how good my English was. And I just laughed. I said, so is yours. And then he laughed. He said, what I mean is, I've met a lot of people from North Carolina who spoke English, but they were still very difficult to understand. And I said, yeah, I know those people. Well, during the course of this conversation, Johann, who was born and raised in Germany, was struggling for the words to express what he meant when he said, you are unlike anyone I've ever met from America. Your personality is different. And I could tell he was struggling for the words, and I just patted him on the shoulder and I said, I know. I don't know anybody like me either. But we're always looking for not only human connection, but we're trying to connect with somebody who's like us, somebody that we feel a kinship to. And I was really happy several months ago when I reconnected with some people that I used to work with in radio 35 years ago. Because radio people, broadcast people, I guess people in entertainment in general, have a different personality than everybody else. They have a different sense of humor from everybody else. And my wife has told me before, when we would be at a party or with a group of people or something like that, she has pulled me aside and said, not everybody gets your humor. Kind of a nice way of saying you need to take it down a notch. But it was really nice to reconnect with some people who did have my sense of humor. And people who do get me. You know, you can call it what you want. You can call it the freedom to be yourself. The judgment-free zone. People who will just accept you the way you are. And sometimes you need to be around people like that. You need to be around people that make you feel like that. Because we all mean different things to different people. To one person, I'm husband. And I'm not husband to anybody else. Just her. So she looks at me differently than other people would. To some people, I'm daddy. And it's a very small select group of people who see me that way. There's a larger group of people who see me as Uncle Robbie. There's an even larger group of people who see me as the electrician. And sometimes it's just nice to be around other people who don't put a label on you, who don't put you in a box. They just see you as their friend. A person they like, a person who's fun to be around, a person they enjoy being around, a person they want to spend time with. And we all need that group of friends who will provide that human touch, that pat on the back, that connection. You're part of my life, I'm part of yours. And I like that you're in my life. So with the COVID-19 lockdown that is continuing on and apparently has no end, just keep in mind, no matter who you are, no matter how alone you may feel, you're part of somebody's life, and somebody's a part of yours. And even if you can't stay with them, even if you can't be with them, just call them on the phone. Set some time aside to just call them up and say, I was just thinking about you. I haven't talked to you in a long time. And in spite of the COVID-19 lockdown, you still make that connection and you stay connected. And that's what being part of the human race is all about. And that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading. Share the podcast with other people. Give me a like, give me a comment. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye now.